Okay guys, that's right, today we are making Loki's Scepter. I started off by printing my templates, which can be found in the description below. I actually ended up giving the templates a few minor changes throughout the project, but the correct ones are linked below. I began by loosely cutting out the templates, not going right along the lines. I took these 3 pieces, which were a template for the handle, and glued them together using rubber cement. I then glued together the spearhead. I next took a sheet of cardboard and some rubber cement and glued the head onto the cardboard. I took a utility knife and cut out the piece. Ignore those 2 pieces in the upper left corner, those ended up being wrong in my original template. Now this has very thin points on the spearhead, and to keep those from bending and tearing off, I basically filled in the inside of the cardboard with hot glue. Afterwards, I took a piece of PVC pipe with an outer diameter of 3/4 inches. I cut the pipe to be a bit longer than the template. I used a heat gun to heat up parts of the pipe and then bend them according to the template. As you can see, if you hold the heat gun on a point of the pipe for a little while, it becomes super easy to bend until it cools off. But as you can see, I got to a point where I was satisfied with the shape. There was some excess on one end, so I cut it off using a PVC pipe cutter. You could also just use a saw. I then cut out along the dotted line because that's where the handle would be inserted. And then I used hot glue to attach the pipe. When the glue dried, I pulled off the piece of paper. There were a few parts that I couldn't really get off, but it didn't matter, so I just left it. Next, it was time to add the handle details. I took that part of the template and glued it onto a piece of cardboard. I cut out those pieces, and on this one piece, I had to pull off the paper and put it back on the cardboard and cut out the smaller shape on the inside. There's also one shape I had to cut out 2 times. This was piece A. I next took these pieces and scored partway through them a bunch of times, but I didn't go the whole way through so that the pieces would be able to bend. And one of these shapes I actually had to cut in half as shown. I took that piece, trimmed it down in a few parts, and glued it on as shown. There was this little gap left between the 2 pieces, so I took a scrap piece of cardboard and glued it right there. I took an empty cereal box because I needed that type of cardboard. I cut one of the faces off and traced the cardboard piece onto it and loosely cut around it. Then I cut that in half. I then glued that on as shown and cut off the excess. I pretty much then repeated that whole process for the next piece, which was piece A again. After that piece came piece B. I had to trim these edges as shown to get it to fit together nicely. I also added some duct tape for extra strength. I then wrapped some of that cereal box cardboard around it too. Then on top of that, I glued piece C and put some cardboard on top of that. I also glued on piece D on the end as shown. However, there was a gap in it. To close it off, I glued on a piece of the cereal box cardboard. The whole time I was looking at reference images to help me figure out how to put things together. Now right here the edge is very flat, but I needed it to be pointy like a spear. So I put some hot glue along the edge and squeezed it together. Not all the edges on this are sharp though, some are still flat. So to cover up the corrugation, I just put out some hot glue along the edges. I then went ahead and gave it a coat of primer. However, I realized I forgot to add this piece, so I glued it on as shown. I then went back to painting. I added a coat of gold everywhere on the handle. I then took some painter's tape and masked off between the gold and where would soon be silver. I gave it a coat of silver and pulled off the tape when it was dry. Now, some silver paint did get on the gold where it shouldn't have been, but I was easily able to touch that up. Now to make the crystal, the thing that has the Mind Stone inside of it. And I used a blue Easter egg. I started by covering the whole thing in hot glue. I made sure I got it on there pretty thick and had to use a lot of it, and did only parts of it at a time. And when the glue isn't too hot, you can actually use your finger to help shape it a bit. When the hot glue was on there pretty thick, I took a utility knife and started cutting parts of it off to form a crystal shape. Just be very careful not to cut yourself. Go slowly. And sometimes I would have to add on some hot glue in an area. Once I was satisfied with the shape, I used a heat gun to help and melt away any noticeable imperfections. I could have painted this if I really wanted, but I was fine with how it looked. I next took this thin dowel rod and cut a few inches off of it. I used some of this craft wire and tightly wound it around it until it was a bit over 1.5 inches long. I then filed down one end of it so that it would be flat. I then drilled into the handle of the scepter as shown. This would make it so I was able to insert the wire piece. I then put some hot glue on the Easter egg and attached it to that wire holder thingy. For extra strength, I added some hot glue as shown. And there you have it, Loki's Scepter.
Alright everyone, thanks so much for sticking around this long. If you liked the video, consider dropping a like, it means a ton. And if you want to see more videos like this, consider subscribing. I'll see you next time.